We don't know for sure. And Roe v. Wade was a similar mess. So we have a very messed up legal system in this country, and it's not easy to come up with a good one either. But I think that the securities laws and things like that, they are important to some extent. And I think like a less is more is a better place to be. I think Gary Gensler and Democrats want a securities paradigm that's virtually impossible to navigate. For example, they hate crypto so much that they won't really let Coinbase exist under any circumstance. And that's something that is just not,
I disagree on that one, but that's neither here. Now's not the time for that
yeah,
conversation. But
yeah. All I'm saying is regulation is something that I'm not a fan of, and I think that there are certain securities or security-like kind of
but
things.
they are a publicly traded company, and
They are.
So if anyone should be subject to regulation by the SEC in the crypto world, it would be them.
Yeah, they are allowed to. They are subject to like filing a 10Q and a 10K, and they have to abide by certain stock market, kind of standards. But I think in terms of like actually regulating crypto itself, a light touch is the best touch. At least a touch that's fair. I think Coinbase sent a letter to the SEC recently begging for regulation. They said, just give us what we need to do.
Yeah, that was all PR. It was a beautifully written anonymous. Actually, me and John Restark joked. I was like, how much do you think it cost him to get that brief written? And he guessed about 15 million.
Yeah, that sounds right.
They've done a fantastic job with PR. Their request for regulation just got rejected because the SEC said we already regulate you under the Securities and Exchange Act of 1933 and 1934, just like every other public company.
Yeah, and they're not just regulating the public company; they're regulating the product, which is crypto. And
right.
They don't.
They're regulating it. They're basically telling them they need to register either as an exchange or a broker-dealer.
I don't think we're going to agree on this, but
Coinbase simply refuses to do that.
I don't think we're going to end up agreeing on this, but I do think that the heavy regulation by the SEC is in my opinion, just unwarranted, and it leads to more of the same kind of corruption where you have a fiefdom, and that fiefdom is occupied by people who are lawyers, and that those lawyers have a revolving door with big law firms and government, and it just keeps going round and round and round. And to get anything done, you need to kiss the ring, you need to pay millions of dollars. And it's just, I've been there. I've been there with the SEC where, if you pay millions of dollars to the right person, a lot of those people work at Paul Weiss, some of them work at Latham and Watkins, some of them work at, any law firm in New York or DC. If you pay enough people and you hire the right names, you have a much better chance of getting your thing done than if you don't. And I think that's, one of the things that's a little bit unavoidable. But
you may not know about Coinbase because I do.
We don't have to talk about Coinbase. We don't have to talk about Coinbase. It's not that.
Yeah, I have something if I can chime in.
I want to talk about me.
Basically, the deals they dump on retail investors, and I don't think you'd agree with that either.
Yeah, maybe not.
They would list tokens that were pre-sold to insiders.
Coinbase is
basically dump on retail investors.
Coinbase is a big can of worms.
Right.
Philip?
Quick question, if you don't. Yeah. This is for Nora as well, because she said something about people being at work and just not getting stuff done. There's a lot of that going on everywhere in all industries. I'm at FedEx, and I agree regulation stifles. What do you think about ridding of salaries and even per hour pay, and it's per task complete?
And replacing it with task like per unit production type stuff?
Well,
sure. Let's go that route.
I think the government has no role in a lot of this stuff, and that's kind of my general viewpoint on everything. Any question that you might have is generally the government. It's not the government's business. That's my perspective. That's generally. Go ahead.
Oh no! Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Okay.
I just wanted to. I was just going to say that if you only pay people per unit, then essentially you're encouraging them to do sloppier work so they can get it done faster.
Yeah, I mean, my point on that is that like labor is a market too, and firms have the right to negotiate for labor. I don't think any labor should be protected, to be frank, and that may be something people don't like to hear. But I think if McDonald's can find a way to serve burgers with crash, because a drunk driver did that. There's a famous case in Long Island, which is where I'm going for, that a Long Island rock band wrote a big song about it too. It was very famous around here in Long Island, and the amount of tragedy of that happening, a drunk driver crashing into a little girl, 3-year-old girl's car and killing her. This is a unfathomable tragedy that could easily be avoided by instituting self-driving cars. But there's a lot of people that don't want self-driving cars, and maybe the technology is ready, maybe it's not. But I do think that we have 50,000 deaths on the road every year, and bureaucracy and vested interest should not be stopping self-driving cars, which theoretically could lower the amount of traffic accidents we have by 90%, save a lot of lives.
That's a great point. That's a great point. FedEx has its public information. We've partnered with Aurora, it's a self-driving truck company.
Yeah, and I think that the money we save, people might say, oh, well, what about the 2 million people that drive trucks? I said, well, we can get other jobs. We have unlimited demand for software engineers. We have unlimited demand.
No, I don't think all of them can do software engineering.
No.
And actually, I would love to ask you this question. Is okay, so we know that there's going to be a lot of jobs replaced, from truck drivers to, most jobs, cashiers, all of that stuff is gone, right? And yes, it'd be great if everybody became a software engineer, but that's not feasible. And I think some people might pursue more human endeavors, things that make us more uniquely human. Some things are going to be more technical. But ultimately, I do think it's going to leave, well, and you can disagree with that, so feel free, but I do think that it's going to leave us, society, in a place where there is going to be a lot of people with no real purpose, no financial output, and I used to be input, and I used to kind of scoff at UBI, because I didn't think that, I thought it would lead to inflation, et cetera, et cetera. But now I'm thinking, the more I think about it, the more I think that we might not have a choice to deal with the people. And I see Philip has thumbs down, so I'm actually curious to hear the counter thoughts to this.
Yeah, it's really good questions, and I think UBI is a recipe for inflation. It's like mathematically just impossible that it doesn't cause inflation. But I think, or it absolutely will cause inflation, I should say. But I think that the thing about jobs that's really interesting is that we're at like 3% unemployment. It's like the record unemployment. The labor market is the tightest it's ever been. And I think that if there is a job in government, and this probably is a state government job, not a federal government job, but it's to skate where the puck is going. And the puck is going and has been going to technology for the last 50 years. And if we don't advocate for the teaching of hardware and software and technology in schools at the earliest age possible, because this is a technological society. Look around you.
I have a point.
Yeah, let me just finish.
I don't disagree, Martin.
I still haven't finished. Let me just real quick. We live in a technological world that is obsessed with technology, and it's not stopped, and it's not going to stop. We have phones in our hands. I have 2 cell phones. I have 4 computer screens in front of me. We never stop doing technology, no matter if we're making millions of dollars or, quite frankly, if we're minimum wage. We can't I know homeless people with cell phones. It's one of these things where we can't stop doing this. And if we start teaching these things at earlier and earlier ages, being a software engineer sounds complicated. But the reality is it's not any more complicated than looking at a toilet, if you've looked at enough toilets, and unplugging them and figuring out how to get them to run again. I look at a car and I say, that's way too complicated for me. And of course, I write software engineering programs that are extremely complicated. So I think that with enough schooling and enough exposure, where we can sort of incentivize people to be interested in this stuff, because guess what? This is the #1 job out there, and there's unending demand for it. And you don't have to be the world's most complex software engineer. There's jobs for people who create websites. You can go to boot camp. One of my friends in here did 6 months, and you can have a software engineering job.